Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khush aamdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, bakhair ragile, washmale, chunishumme. Welcome to Well This Morning, which is a Hashmi, ladies and gentlemen, on a very beautiful, pleasant and a productive morning. It's been productive for me so far, but let's see what happens in the rest of the day. But I really hope this day happens to be the best for all of you as well. All the good luck for the plans that you've made for today and best of wishes for whatever comes your way as well. But I'll tell you what, there's a certain way that actually you can shape and choose things that come your way. And as I always say, and this is one of the most commonly used messages that I always, sort of reach out to you guys in terms of on my show, it's about being kind. And again, as generic as it sounds, I think being kind and being nice is something that will always reward you. You shouldn't, of course, do it with the expectation of being rewarded, yes, of course, but I'll tell you, if you're being nice for the smallest of the things to people who you don't even know, it will come back to you. So you know how often someone says, "Aaj mera din hi kharab shuru hua tha. My day started off bad." So one bad thing can happen to you in the, early in the morning, and then that can ruin your mood. And then, subconsciously, you will be dealing with people in a bad mood as well. So your energies will be sort of, they are contagious, vibes are contagious, energies are contagious, yes. So if you're in a bad mood, the people that you will interact with, they'll be like, "Oh, why is this person being so rude to me or not being nice to me?" And then he's going to sort of adopt the mood and then carry that forward as well. So it's sort of a circle. And I tell you what, by the end of the day, it's always going to come back to you. And that is why you always say, because my day started bad, that is why my entire day was bad. It was bad because you sent out bad and negative vibes as well. So even if, God forbid something bad happens to you, just make sure to, stand in front of it and face it with such positive vibes that whatever comes back to you is so good and positive that you finally have what you wanted to have as well. It's all about the mindset. But I'll tell you what, sometimes it's not even in your own control. Sometimes it happens, especially in our society, that people around us, people from the family probably, people from our friend circle, or even our colleagues, they can put you in a bad mood. There are certain types of conflicts that may rise in terms of, interpersonal conflicts, like maybe at your work as well, you had a disagreement with your colleague or even your boss, at your home with your siblings as well. And that can put you in a bad mood because you really don't know how to resolve that, right? Because the person in front of you, do respect them, you do really like them, but you have a disagreement with them. So you're really being conscious that, okay, I really hope I didn't give them a piece of my mind because this is what I think. So you're confused about how to deal with that. And it's only natural. It's normal for anyone to have different type of conflicts in their life. But this was interpersonal conflict. Sometimes the interpersonal conflict can grow into groups as well. Sometimes groups and sects of people can have conflict, and sometimes even that crosses the limit of, groups. It can become an international conflict as well. There are just so many types of conflicts. And if I did not already give it away, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we will be talking about today. We will be discovering, exploring the meaning of conflict, how it may appear in our personal lives, in our work lives as well, and well, all over the globe as well. So if you need to find out how to be very good at dealing with disagreements and how to be very good at dealing with conflicts and, coming out and rising out even stronger than before, this is the show that you need to be watching, so stay tuned. On my right-hand side, I've been joined by someone who happens to be a motivational speaker, very apt for my topic here today, Shahzad Ahmed. Hello, assalamu alaikum, welcome to my show.
Thank you very much, Shahzad.
Next to Mr. Shahzad, we have someone who happens to be an educationist. All my respect for him, because I'll tell you what, I was just telling him before the show as well, the best kind of guests on my show have been educationists, because the kind of brain that they have, the kind of thoughts that they have, when they come out, in front of you, you're like, okay, this is a beautiful mind, and these are the thoughts that you need to carry forward in your life as well. He happens to be the assistant professor at Namal University. He's none other than Raja Kamran. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to my show.
Assalam, thank you, and I'm afraid that you raised the expectations about educationists.
No, I really do mean it. So here's the thing. As I mentioned, we are going to be covering and sort of, shedding light on different types of conflicts. So I think to begin with, Shahzad, since you are a motivational speaker, I'm pretty sure you must be dealing with a lot of people who come up with issues with interpersonal conflict, right? And then to raise yourself and raise your self-esteem and come back stronger, how does that happen? I think to begin with, you should explain what calls that a conflict.
You talked very nicely about the conflict in your startup.
Thank
Whatever you have said is, it all depends upon the perception of the person.
Right.
You said that it may be the bad mood in the start of the day, and the good deeds you were talking about.
Yeah.
What is good and what is bad, it depends upon your own perception.
Okay.
So there are people, for them, there's nothing bad in the universe. Right? So the conflict arises when there is a difference of perception. And conflict, what is conflict in reality? This is the basic question which me or Raja will be describing in the later half of the day.
Okay.
conflict to me is just a mind state which a person like you or me or anybody else experiences when he or she has a conflict of feelings in his mind. If you don't have that clash, conflict will not arise.
So you're saying all of it comes down to feelings in the end of the day?
Yeah.
And by that do you mean emotions?
That means your perception.
Okay.
How you take the things. Because you cannot control the external environment. What you can control is your own behavior against it. The reaction you are doing to any action is the control you have.
Absolutely, that's true. And you know, I'm going to add to it actually, because our religion teaches us about peace, and that is the main and only message it gives out to everyone, you know, reading our script as well, Quran as well, not only Muslims. So your religion does tell you to resolve any conflict as soon as it arises. I mean, please talk it out. Even if you need a third party to mediate, make sure that it happens as well. So Mr. Raja Kamran, what is your understanding of conflict? Let's say in the light of religion, first of all.
You see that before coming towards this important thing to relate it with how religious provides solution to the conflict resolution, we need to understand the nature of conflicts, that how we are surrounded with in our daily life.
Okay, let's
you see that life is so diverse, it is so, you see, different and heterogeneous elements are around that no one can ideally expect that there will not be any conflict. So this is part of life, yeah. And that's why if it is part of life, we need to be very progressive to understand that how to deal with this. So there are several options to deal with this. There are scholars and intellectuals who believe that the prime driving force behind the social change and social development is basically conflict, the critical perspective beliefs. In sociology, you see that scholars are of the view that if one wants to study any social development, one should have an understanding of the conflicting nature of the human beings. That how you see that often we remain at conflict with ourselves, that is intrapersonal conflict. You see that every individual at the time goes through the process of convincing himself or herself.
This cognitive dissonance that keeps on.
This is something that we go through intrapersonal conflicts on daily basis. So this is you see a vast field to talk about conflicts, and it needs a whole list of recommendations how to deal with this. But the question that how religions teach us, when we try to consult Islamic teachings, we see that how there are very important teachings about our communications. That how our communications with ourselves, where we convince ourselves, and the welfare, considering welfare of the society at large, of the outer world.
Not harming anyone.
That this is what can help you. I mean, Quran Hakim, you see, teaches us at several times that how you should manage your anger, how you should donate things to others, how you should exchange gifts with others, how you should be well-wisher of others. So all these are guiding principles which can help us to solve and resolve this issue and be happy, because there is crisis of happiness for individuals in modern times.
Exactly. And I think you very beautifully explained that, where you said that it's only natural to have conflicts, even intrapersonal conflicts, because that is the human nature as well. And I don't think anyone has any control over that. The only thing, like you mentioned, Raja Kamran Sahab, we can do is take control of our own emotions as to how we're going to deal with the conflict. But since we're talking about, you know, there are so many aspects to conflict, I feel like in these 25 minutes we're going to stick to interpersonal, because still there's so much to cover in that. Now you tell me, Shahzad Sahab, when we're talking about a conflict, and if I were to, you know, reflect upon myself, let's say if I were in a conflict with a party or a person, and I think to myself, I can't be the person who rose this conflict. Where did I go wrong? First of all, is that possible that, you know, it's one-sided? And if I believe that I'm not the person wrong over here, what's wrong with me? How can I deal with that?
Shiza, it's often said that a conflict cannot survive unless you participate in it.
Okay, so it's never one-sided.
It's never one-sided. Okay. So next time you are into conflict, you have to blame yourself to some extent, to some tendency as well. Now the question is, when this situation arises, what is your control in it? There is a term we use which is known as APR. APR stands for absolute personal responsibility. And that is so much
everyone
important.
Takes that up.
That is so important that I must repeat it. APR means absolute personal responsibility. When I say absolute, it is not 99.9%.
It's 102%. Exactly, yes.
For example, in your case, it is 100% Shiza who has the control to conclude the conflict situation or to retain it.
All right, all right.
For example, I will try to make you understand this with a metaphor.
Yes, please.
If there is water and the bird is flying at a very far height from that water, if you are going to say that what is it, that bird might assume that it is illusion or the mirage of the eyes.
Right, right.
Another bird which is flying at the lower height, when you are going to ask about it, that bird is going to tell you that this water is reality. But if I'm going to dive into it, that would be just like embracing the death. And the third angle of the same reality, if you are going to ask something about that water to fish, that fish is going to tell you that it is reality and it is mandatory for it to survive within that water.
Right.
So in our normal routine, there are situations where Shiza is looking at the reality from one angle and Shehzad is looking at the same reality from the other angle. And this is the origin of conflict.
And I think this also, you know, comes back to where you said that it's all about perspective. Yeah. You know, yes, issue can be one thing, of course. It's never one-sided and it's all about perspective as well. But, you know, I feel like in my life, of course, being a human again, I've come across many arguments or many conflicts or many sort of, you know, disagreements with people, of course, people that I know, people that I love as well. But I feel like I don't want to waste my time anymore. And you learn the hard way after a long time, right? You're like, I don't want to waste my time anymore. There's this, it's a funny lyric from a song where it says, you know, cry me a river, build a bridge, get over it. You know what I mean? Of course, take your time. It's going to hurt you, but in the end of the day, it's all, you know, about yourself, how you're going to deal with it. But now, Kamran Sahab, I want you to explain to me, you know, of course, this is on a personal level. Sometimes, more usual than often, in all societies all over the world, it grows beyond the personal, you know, it goes beyond actually the personal boundary, and it escalates into something so big that it cannot be contained. And when we look at, you know, under the political sciences or the global politics, even if we look at conflict, the unit, they take the state as the unit, but it does arise from individual or party conflict, right? So how can that be sort of, you know, nip the evil in the bud that it doesn't grow so big?
You see that modern globalized citizenship demands a very responsible understanding of the ground realities across, that how there are clashes of interests, how there are national interests which are working everywhere. And there are very efficient means to deal with all those challenges if the state is the unit or the nations are the unit. If we see that how the world is growingly becoming very volcanic in reference of conflicts, because you see, peaceful coexistence remains always a challenge. It is a challenge, it would remain a challenge. And it demands a very logical, you see, and rational approach to deal with these challenges. All the world will have to think on this, that how these conflicts-oriented syndromes would be destroying our future. How if we would ignore, you see, the possibility or the accelerated paces, our gestures, or our moves at national levels, which may escalate the conflicts further, like we are suffering here in the context of Kashmir. Like you see that Afghanistan pick recently for peace. This is something that you see, it may cause you decades-long tragedies and losses. So it has a very large-scale understanding in the context of international misunderstanding of the situation. So that's why it has a similar orientation at personal level, interpersonal level, as well as international level. We need to understand that how merely avoiding or pushing it under the carpet or having an ostrich-like disregard is not a solution. Often we need to have a preemptive approach to understand potentially that how it can affect to the future generations. And this is the responsibility of human beings at responsible, you see, expectations level, that we should be very progressive, we should be very open-hearted, we should be very realistic, and we should be quite tangible in contributing to solve those problems which may cause any sort of harm for the people, for their lives, for their welfares, for their belongings, for their, you see, for their future, and for the future of humanity at large.
Absolutely. But Kamran Sahab, I'm going to actually take further the point of yours that you already mentioned over here, where you said that when you, the intrapersonal and, you know, interstate conflicts even operate on the same principles if we look at them. So this question is actually for both of you, for interpersonal and then at the state level as well. You mentioned the example of Kashmir and then us being a part of the Afghan peace process as well, because of course we are promoting peace. But in our case, and generally in some cases as well, you know, the work, or the world of conflicts works on the principle of realpolitik, where you're always conscious about yourself, that even if you put your confidence and your trust in someone else's hand, there's always a 50-50 chance if they will ruin it or not. Like, we are always up for a peace process with India, but we never know what their intentions are. Same is the case with interpersonal conflict as well, you know. You can always be nice to people, but they will always be be people who are going to put you down and criticize you. So in that case, what you're going to do? Let's start with the state level.
You see that if another party or the party you are in conflict with is very aggressive and it is very much inclined to or prone to be aggressive and violent in his or her tactics, then we need to rationalize the situation, and we need to conduct a SWOT analysis. What is our strength actually?
Right.
One should be realistic. We should not be ambitious in a foolish manner.
But you tell me, so now you're a professional over here, that is why you know how to deal with these things. But for laymen like me, let's suppose I'm in a situation and I'm in a conflict, and you said we have to, you know, sort of figure out the situation, do SWOT analysis. How do I know if I should get into this or not? Like, what is the practical way of dealing with it?
You see that technically whenever we talk about conflict, there are certain stages. There is a very preemptive stage when something is not even, no one is aware of that this conflict, it may, you see, instigate into a conflict in longer term. Then there is a second stage, then one believes that something is wrong. You see, that is perceived. And then that is manifested. So the layman usually waits for the stage of the development when conflict in any form, interpersonal form, or that is interstate conflict, that is manifested. And when that is manifested, that can be harmful and disastrous. So that's why I recommend that the educated people, most of our listeners, our target audience here, they understand actually that how we should be very much, you see, visualistic, we should be very much vigilant. That our behaviors, our non-verbal communications, our moves, you see, can harm or can violate someone's expectations, and resultantly there would be some discomfort, and that discomfort may be into problematic relations.
That's absolutely true, and I really hope everyone thinks from that perspective that you are thinking. But Shahzad, what do you have to say about, you know, the other party being continuously bothersome? How do you deal with that situation then?
Since you have talked about the motivation and perception, I'm a strong believer of controlling the situation yourself.
Really? Do you, you know, of course, that is something to say, and we hope that happens, that you have all the control in your life. But there are, and I still agree with that, but there are some times when things or situations are out of your hand. It's only natural. The other person may be the driving force of the conflict. How can you minimize that?
Let me explain you with an example, right?
Please.
For example, you have said that people are criticizing all the time, and you are in this situation, and you are a victim of that situation, right? For example, there is empty bottle which is plugged up, and you throw it in water. That bottle is going to float on surface of the water. What if that bottle has some cracks? What will happen after some time? The water will start creeping into that bottle. In this metaphor, me and you are the personalities which are behaving like bottle. And the people who are criticizing you are in reality identifying your improvement areas as cracks in your personality.
That's actually very smart.
So you have to be obliged of those criticism. You have to be obliged of them. You first have to admit that they exist, and after admitting their existence, this is a golden time to work upon your own personality to become foolproof.
Right. That is
so next time anybody criticizes you, this is the biggest opportunity you have in your hands to improve yourself. So the people who are criticizing you today will be the people who are going to praise you tomorrow.
That is true, but Shahzad, you know, what usually happens, and I know it's a wrong approach, but like you mentioned, you have to be strong for, you know, the bad things not to let into you. Of course, you have to be the guard to your cracks as well, so that the light can only come in and not the bad things. But sometimes, like I've already mentioned, people do misuse you, and you cannot really, you know, take control of the situation. I'm really sorry, I just forgot the question that I was going to ask, so I'm going to change to the next one as well. It was a really good one, I promise you. So since we have just a little time left to this segment as well, I want to touch up on something that is so broad. Yes, we cannot cover it, but at least we can touch up on it. Ladies and gentlemen, when we're talking about religious minorities, my religion, my state, you know, constitutionally, tells us to be equal to, you know, and not discriminatory towards any sort of minorities, be they gender-based, religion-based, any sort, right? So that is the belief that we all are brought up with. Unfortunately, there are, I want to say 1 or 2%, but there are segments of the society that will be so, you know, just really living to live off a conflict, especially in terms of, you know, religious minorities. Impatience and intolerance is the key over there, you know, illiteracy is the key over there. In that term, because that is bringing a bad name to my country, how can we reduce that on a state level? So I really want religious minorities to be safe over here, and that is a major conflict. How can we go about that? Are we a stakeholder in that, though? I feel like we are, right? We're a part of this country.
Yeah, we are the owners of the country, right?
Yeah.
So being an individual, you have all the control because the individuals make the society.
Right.
So the control you have is upon your own self-interest. Once you are going to lose your self-interest, you are going to get away from your position. That would be the moment that you are going to get somebody else in step with you. So next time there is a situation where you are into, I would request you to go one step behind from your self-interest. The moment you are going to lose your self-interest, the moment would invite other people to have trust on you.
All right. So you're saying when we have to deal with situations on such a larger scale where you're not the only unit or the only entity in the conflict, you have to sort of forget about yourself and think on a larger perspective. Yes, that does make sense. Raja Kamran sir, what do you have to say about this?
You see that there is a very popular line, and we should make it as a syllabus for everyone's moral coaching, counseling. That is that everyone is equal and everyone has an equal right to be different.
Of course.
Yeah. This is our constitutional and moral obligation and religious obligation to respect all the distinctions, all the differences. This is beauty of our nation. This is beauty of Pakistan. If there is minority, if there is gender-based minorities are around, we need to respect them. We need to respect them because, you see, if we are not going to manage this difference at this social level, it is going to be very problematic in longer term.
Yeah, true.
You see that no one can be this much high-handedly deal with these things. These are challenges of the modern times.
Absolutely.
So there are, you see, series of riots in our neighbor country. Now we see that the stories coming from New Delhi.
Indeed, so never been
we need to empathize, basically. We need to understand that how we should put ourselves in the shoes of the others.
Exactly.
Then we can better realize that what they can feel, what is their state of mind, and how we can develop a dialogue if we have any disagreement, how we can we can engage them positively. There are options. Instead of just, you see, that going for the options which are on the basis of ignorance, our emotions, our jingoistics in nature, and we are going to suppress things. This is not possible.
This is not possible.
This is, you see, something which should be condemned at every level.
Absolutely.
Pakistan is of everyone's country, and everyone has an equal right, and they are already contributing in the development of national, you see, development. So that's why academically this is something that we should be introducing in our syllabus. It should be literacy, a part of our course outlines. That how we need to develop this, you see, tolerance level orientation towards the minorities, towards the gender discrimination, towards the challenges which so far Pakistani academic sides could not take as it was expected or with due share. So that's why academic reforms are recommended for this. How it should be taught to the students in the classrooms at the primary level.
Agreed. And you know, Kamran Sahab, one thing, yes, of course, I do agree with you. In the education system, you have to inculcate these values even more so that they become a part of the thought process of the children while they grow up. But in that process, when we're looking at the teachers coming from that generation where things were, let's say, not normal in terms of equality, they have to unlearn and then relearn, and a lot of people are not willing to do that. That's yet another debate. But one of my last questions for you both gentlemen is going to be, you know, when you talk about a conflict or an agreement, a lot of people think that winning an argument or, you know, a conflict is the best. Sometimes, of course, you can just leave it there and not try to aggravate it. Sometimes you can step out of it as well. There are so many ways of, you know, not being a part of the conflict anymore. But the one who just let it be, he has often a connotation of being weak. Or, you know, weakness is often affiliated with him as well. So, Shehzad Sahab, how can one get rid of a conflict and not be, you know, recognized as a weak person?
You don't have to get aside from the conflict. You have to embrace it. Embrace the conflict and make it happen for you. You can win the conflict, but it might be possible that you may lose the other party forever. So, you can win the conflict, in fact, by losing it.
Yeah. That is so important.
It's a beautiful thing because sometimes you can win the people by losing the conflict.
That's so beautiful.
And that is more important for you.
Absolutely. What do you have?
There are several strategies to deal with this challenge. You see that one should collaborate, first of all, and collaboration is actually safeguarding one's own interests and interests of the others, the party which is involved with the conflict. You can go with the policy of avoiding it. That is not recommended because that is not the solution. That may erupt at any time in future and you see fire back to you. You can collaborate, you can coordinate, you can compromise And if you are competitive, you see that you only want to safeguard your own interests at the costs of others, others' loss. This is something unfair. One should not go for this, and we need to grow up, and we need to accommodate everyone in a compromising situation. We should sacrifice our own, share if conflict is getting worse, because it may potentially become disastrous in third world countries like Pakistan, where at social levels we need several reforms. We need to educate people. We need to, adapt at different things which are awkward to us. This is something that we need to understand academically.
That is beautiful, and thank you so much for being in conversation with me about this amazing topic as well, gentlemen. This was Raja Kamran Saab and Shahzad Ahmed, and we were discussing conflict on so many levels that we sort of lost the track of time, because this is actually a very vast topic, right? And we need probably hours to talk about it. But thank you so much for this conversation. I'm pretty sure all of those who are watching did take something away from this, because especially talking about interpersonal conflict, and sometimes even intrapersonal conflict, there are some things which stay in your mind, in the back of your mind, which we call subconscious, and they will rise at the worst of times when you don't even expect them to. Like, you're just sitting and randomly you think of something bad that happened to you, something bad that actually makes you feel bad, and you think to yourself, really, this is still in my brain, but it does stay with you. And sometimes that causes a lot of stress and anxiety, it puts people to depression in different phases of life. So how to avoid that? It is totally and entirely a different debate. But ladies and gentlemen, right now we're heading out to a short break. But when we come back, I will have a teenage writer with me who is a writer, a poetess, and she actually went through a bad phase in her life, and she, sought out ways to come out of that. We will find out what those ways were. Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back to World This Morning, ladies and gentlemen, with Shazza Hashmi, where today I have taken a pledge that I'm going to help all of you to learn how to deal with your conflicts of your life, be they at intrapersonal level, be that at interpersonal level, or even, well, among groups. This is the show that you should be watching to figure that out. Well, in the first segment, I did actually touch upon all of these different aspects of conflict, but one of the things that is very close to my heart is, of course, your intrapersonal conflict, the things that go on in your own mind. Sometimes a lot of people have cognitive dissonance about the decisions that they make, a lot of conflictual feelings going on in their mind about the things that they say. Some people are naturally overthinkers, right? Some people just do not have naturally the capacity or the capability to deal with the feelings, all the negative and the positive ones going on in their mind. But there definitely needs to be a way to figure those out and come out stronger of those feelings. Because if you let them take over you, your day is going to be ruined, right? You really don't want anything to be the boss of you. You are the boss of your own life. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be shortly in conversation with a teenager who actually decided to take up writing. And this is one of her, I want to say this was one of her habits, but then this is now going to sort of be her profession too. I see that. She's a poetess, she's a writer, she writes prose and everything as well. But one very important thing that, the reason that why she's here is she went through a phase of her life and she felt like, okay, writing helped me, and the scripts that I've written really helped me out. So I want to share this with the world so that whoever is going through that specific phase of their life, they can come out of it stronger. So without further ado, I'm going to be in conversation with this young, amazing mind over here in the studio. Manahil Khan, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to World This Morning. So Manahil, I feel like I have spoken a lot about your work already. So to begin with, when did you start writing? And when did you feel like, you know what, this is the time that everyone should read my writing?
I started writing in 7th grade back in 2017, and almost at the end of 2018, I decided to, post it. It was something very normal, an Instagram account that I started to write, but I got a great response.
That's nice.
I thought there are people that can relate to whatever I'm writing.
Exactly.
And that was the moment I wanted to continue writing, and I just never want to stop now.
That's great. And you know, that is the beauty of actually social media platforms. And I feel like it's people like you who deserve to be on the social media platforms as well. Because on every other show, I'm talking about people who spew hate. It's very easy to be a keyboard warrior, you know, hiding behind your gadgets and just spreading hate all over the social media. But to share your journey of happiness, I think it's amazing. So Minahil, who inspired you and what were the things that you were writing initially?
When I was in basically 7th grade, I'm mentioning my grades because that's the school and everything where it came from.
All right.
I thought that poetry, Pinterest, basically helped me escape everything.
That's nice.
I was seeing pieces that I could relate to, and then in my journals, more than journal entries, I started to, you know, make it a poetry entry. And every day, with the passage of time, my words became poetry, and I can feel still when I reread the journals that there is the pain in it that I tried to hide.
Did you share it with your family before you shared it with everyone on social media?
No. I didn't.
Were you a private person?
Yeah, I didn't share it with anyone for a great passage of time. I didn't even share what I was going through. It was just my journal and me.
But do you feel like, you know, there definitely needs to be a way to express your feeling? It's only natural it comes to all human beings, you know. Some people, even in the worst phases of catharsis, some people even resort to watching a sad movie so that they can let it out. People are bad with expressing things. Not everyone can be that fluent, and it's a blessing if you're good at expression, right? So like you're saying, you were a private person, and then this was your way of expression. Was there a time when people were misinterpreting your work or even probably bullying you on social media that you felt like, I want to stop this?
No.
Okay.
I haven't came across anyone bullying me for that. Matter of fact, yeah, it wasn't ever like for my words. I was misinterpreted. I was very straightforward with my words.
People understood that?
Yeah, they understood that. I was projecting my work to that audience.
So how does it feel for strangers, for people? You know, there was a trend, I'm pretty sure this was way before you were even born, there was a trend of pen friend.
Yes.
So you know about it, right? So you would, you know, fax them or even write letters to them. They were supposed to be a stranger, but you would share your soul with them. That is such a beautiful concept. But this is happening on a larger scale now on social media. So did you feel like it's more comfortable for you to open up about your feelings to strangers because of, I don't know, maybe misjudgment or something?
I actually think about this question a lot, that when it comes to a stranger, I may just sit there and spill the beans because maybe they do not know who am I and my past or what I've been through. They just know what I'm saying, and for one moment that feels so great.
So you're saying this is actually a good platform for people to come together.
It
and
is.
You know, this is one of the positive uses of social media as well, as I already mentioned. So Minahil, may I request you, if you have a journal, do you have a journal that you write now? Can you share something with us so that we know what we are talking about, and then we can talk about your future plans, inshallah?
Yeah, so I used to write.
It's so cute though. Can you show it? It's so pink.
I don't do pink.
Oh, it's very nice.
But I just bought it and it's like everything. So I'll read something.
Yes, please go on.
Can I just look for it for a moment?
Yeah, sure. Go on. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, the only purpose for me having people like Minahil Khan on the show is because it's really close to my heart, the fact that people have to go through mental, I want to say, phases as well. And it's only natural, I always keep mentioning that. But for people who are in their teenage, that is one of the worst of the times, because you're so rebellious, you really don't feel like accepting the rules that the world has made for you or the society has made for you. So you have a set of your own rules in your mind, and when things don't comply with your rules, you feel like my life is ruined, which is natural. Again, I even went through that phase when I was a teenager. But to listen to the thoughts of teenagers who are, you know, that brilliant in their mind, it gives me pleasure. And then to, you know, learn from them how they dealt with that phase, it gives me even more pleasure. So Minahil, please take it away.
So it's breathe if you can. It's when I realized that it's okay to break. Breathe if you can. Don't let the demons take a stand. Know that it's gonna be fine. Don't run in shade further miles. Stay and breathe. I know it's hard, but you'll be free. You'll win this war. Don't be cold and sore. Love still lives in the heart of the survivor, and you, my human, are the survivor. Find the love, don't be tough. Break, shatter, spread, but chin up, head straight. Breathe if you can. Breathe if you can. Conquer your demonic lands. You, my friend, are strong, but breaking down isn't wrong. break in bathroom floors or in grocery stores, in classrooms or courtrooms, break loud, break short. You'd still be art, you'll still have a heart. Breathe if you can, live and feel, breathe and heal. Feel the relief, breathe, feel free, breathe, let it be. Oh, my friend, breathe.
That is just beautiful. And Manahil, I'll tell you what, from the sort of the themes that I picked up on, that is why you mentioned, like a lot of people, how they relate with you. You mentioned that even after you do have a breakdown, you're still going to be art.
Yes.
And that is actually the main key of life. I realized quite a little later stage, I have to be honest over here, probably a few years down the lane. But realizing the beauty in things that the God has created. It can even be a clay pot. It can be a small flower that fell off on the ground. It can be a person. It can be an animal. Anything that God has created has a lot of beauty in it. And to realize that is actually art. And, you know, as we say, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So, Manahil, please carry on this good work. But do let me know, are you planning to on publishing things as well?
Yeah, I am.
Like what sort of? Is it going to be a compilation of all your quotes? Is it a book? What?
A book.
Okay, that's nice.
It'll have everything in it to survive, because for one moment I used to go to bookstores, but I didn't find anything to, you know,
relate to
my teenage phase exactly. But I really want my book to be that.
But okay, that's great, and good luck for that as well. I would really, you know, whenever inshallah it is published, do come back on the show so we can, you know, tell people where to go and buy that as well. But towards the end, Manahil, when you realize that, okay, this is the time I'm going to share all of my work with, you know, your family on social media, the social media fam, Insta fam. Was your sister is here, first of all, kudos to you for supporting her as well. Was your sister or your mom, dad, or, you know, your family members, your close friends, sort of restrictive of it, that Manahil bete, dunya ko na batayo, things like that?
No, they were very supportive of it. It was, we are always war with ourselves. It was me that stopped myself from being out there. I've actually stopped myself and started to write again. They were always very supportive of the fact that I should write, publish it, let it be out there.
Right, that's great. So, Manahil, no pressure, but do you plan on in the future maybe releasing, if not a book, maybe some posts in Urdu as well for all our viewers too?
Yeah, only if I enhance my Urdu that much. Of course I will. It's a lovely language.
Absolutely, absolutely true. Thank you so much for being here, Manahil. And I love that, you know, the theme of your work is realizing that you yourself are the main, you know, I want to say the barricade in your own goal, you know, the path of your goal as well, because no one else is going to stop you. No one else matters that much to, you know, be a resistance in your path to, it is you and only you. So towards the end, Manahil, all the youth that is watching you, being inspired by you, everyone right now who's watching in more than 40 countries in the world, I want you to give out a detailed message to them in terms of how to come out stronger in terms of a bad mental phase. This is a camera, please go ahead.
I'll say that it'll take time, but for sure, you will heal. Don't pressure yourself. You'll get the job, you'll get the grades, and you'll be on top again. But before that, you need to heal. And in order for that, you need to break. So don't build up here. Don't bottle up. Just let it out. And most importantly, if you're someone seeing someone go through a bad phase, hear them. We all can heal if we talk and hear each other. And I think that matters the most.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Manahil, for sharing your beautiful mind with us as
Thank
well.
you.
All the best of luck for your future endeavors, and I really hope this book comes out soon, then we can have you back again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the things we keep talking about, and I will, inshallah, keep talking about for the rest of my shows to be here on this channel, PTV World. Be kind to people around you, because you don't know what phase they're going through. Just be a helping hand or be a lending ear to them. Sometimes just being listened to is the best of the healing processes as well. Like Manahil mentioned as well, you know, if someone is going through a bad phase, they do not expect you to be, you know, their savior or the knight in shining armor to come physically do something, pull them out of it. All they want is you to be there, you know, listen to what they're going through, and maybe just sit through it, hold their hand, just, you know, tell them that it's okay, it's going to be all right. Bake them brownies maybe, make them some good milkshake as well, share good moments with them. This is just an example of how you can share some light and good moments with people around you as well. Do not just be that person who, you know, is the reason of any conflict going on in someone's life. I really hope you learned something from us. If you did, please write on us our Facebook page with the name of World This Morning, on Twitter, World This Morning without a G, Daily Motion on YouTube, also World This Morning, and you can also find us on YouTube under the name of PTV World. And the repeat you can catch at 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, good morning. you.